You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
The show before the show is on the road once more, the 32nd episode of the Minor League Baseball podcast. Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler Mon. He's Sam Dykstra. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. How is Arizona?
It is lovely.
Everybody know you are in Arizona.
It is lovely. I'm hoping that everybody will get some Nat sound here behind the old mic. Let's see if we can get a pitch call in here real quick. No, it was ball four to Casey Gillespie of the Tampa Bay Rays. It is, I'm hanging out at Sloan Park, the home of the Chicago Cubs, and the Arizona Fall League home of the Mesa Solar Sox, who are really, really struggling in this AFL season. They are currently, as of the recording of this broadcast, down 8-1 to the Salt River Raptors. Mesa is 4-14 on the season this year, and pitching staff has really struggled. But ballpark's awesome. Arizona Fall League, very cool. This is my third day here, and so getting a chance to check out this game, albeit they've got night games coming up Thursday and Friday here in Arizona, and then Saturday is the Fall Stars game, where we've got rosters named for that. We'll discuss a little bit, and the AFL, very, very cool. Such a relaxed environment. Got a chance yesterday as I am going to catch a – oh, man.
Oh.
They're trying to get in a sound here. That was perfect.
I feel like I saw that happen. You said I feel like I'm going to catch it, and then smack.
That was Cale Brockmeyer, by the way. Cale Brockmeyer makes an appearance in the podcast.
See, there you go.
Good work. Nice work there, Cale. Almost killed me with that. It was very close. I'm kind of up first base-ish side in the press box here in Mesa, and this ballpark is awesome. Sam, if you get a chance to come down here next year to Arizona, or if you're headed to Florida, I know the Florida parks are really cool. I haven't been there for spring training yet, but this is the newest one here in Arizona, the spring training home of the Cubs, and Sloan Park is gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it down to Florida this year for spring training, but AFL is definitely going to be on the list next year if we can plan it out a little earlier. Maybe we'll do a podcast together.
We'll do a joint podcast from the AFL next year.
That way we can both warn each other when balls are flying at it.
We're going to get killed by baseballs flying toward the press box, and then Cale Brockmeyer gets hit with a pitch. So everybody's trying to make appearances here on the 32nd edition of the show before the show. So welcome in. Like I said, I'm Tyler. He's Sam. We got a ton of stuff coming up for you AFL related today. We got a ton of stuff coming up Milby's related. Dylan Bundy, the Baltimore Orioles #2 prospect, will join the show today. Dylan, 2 days ago, and by the time you are hearing this, 3 days ago, made his first appearance of the Arizona Fall League and first appearance on a competitive mound since the spring. Battling some injuries. Obviously, shoulder inflammation this year was the culprit. He had Tommy John surgery back in 2013, and it seems like a very, very long time ago, but Dylan Bundy was a phenom. First professional year out of high school. He made the big leagues in 2012, drafted in 2011 with the 4th overall pick, was that guy for the Baltimore Orioles, and has really had a frustrating few seasons, but seems like he is in a really good spot mentally. He's feeling good. We'll hear from Dylan here in just a little while, but before we get into that, let's talk some Milby. Minor League Baseball awards. We've been releasing stories day after day, rapid fire here over the last week or so. Let's start with the Houston Astros, Sam, because we had some teams win certain things, and then the Astros just won everything else. So the Astros this week, best farm system, top offensive player, best team, best individual performance. Just take it away. Just tell us about this Astros system and all of this massive I guess, like palette of awards that we're shipping to the Houston system.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I'm writing the story now, not as we podcast, but, today, we're recording this on Wednesday. The story will be out tomorrow. I'm doing the story on the best farm system. Astros took that running away, both in the staff and fan vote. And then you look up and down the list of what they've won, and it all kind of makes sense, and trying to encapsulate that all together. All those separate stories. Best offensive player was A.J. Reed. As the staff vote, Tyler White was the fans vote. So Astros Nation kind of came out for both sides on that one. Breakout prospect, Jacob Nottingham, was the fan vote. He started the year in the Astros system, eventually got moved to the A's. Best team was Fresno Grizzlies, voted by both fans and staff. You go up and down the list. Fisher drives in 12 in debut. Derek Fisher, the Astros prospect, in his Lancaster debut, that was our best performance of the year, best individual performance. So it's one of those things where you have to wait for the die to kind of be cast. And there's a lot of things we talked about this year, and the Astro system was certainly one of them. But now that we're having the opportunity to sit back and kind of write these, year-end pieces, you're kind of realizing, A, like we always said, it was the year of the prospect, but B, this was really the year of the Astro system. You're talking about a system that led all major league organizations, and their minor league affiliates had the highest winning percentage among all minor league affiliates. Collectively, they graduated Carlos Correa, who's now one of the most exciting players in the major leagues. Lance McCullers is right there. You've got all these guys right behind them. You remember how much talent they traded away between Brett Phillips and Domingo Santana, and like I said, Jacob Nottingham, Daniel Mengden, and yet it continues to get stronger. They had 3 really, really good draft picks this year. They really worked that system well, getting Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, and Daz Cameron. And you just see it almost like a conveyor belt of talent. It just you put it on one end and it's slowly carrying its way towards the majors. And in the piece I wrote about the farm system, as everybody will recall, a couple of years ago, actually last year, Sports Illustrated, known for its cover curses, put George Springer on the cover, and they had a story on the inside about the Astro system and how they were changing things since Jeff Lunau got there.
That was the infamous 2017 World Series champions cover story.
Exactly, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of, it said 2017 World Series champions, and everybody's like, that can't possibly happen. We've seen what the Astros are. They putting something like that on there seems out of the question.
Remember the Taylor Swift tweet? The Astros
that too.
tweeted at the end of the 2014
Right.
season, over the offseason, they tweeted Taylor Swift's concert date at Minute Maid Park would be subject to change based on a potential Astros playoff appearance. That tweet was mocked mercilessly. That went viral from people who are like, look at the Astros over here, idiots. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, they had to move that concert because they were playing in the playoffs at Minute Maid Park.
Right, and that's the thing I'm writing about in the farm system. It's like 2017 almost could have been 2015. You forget how close they were to eliminating
Yes,
the Royals
exactly.
this year.
Nobody pushed the Royals as far as the Astros did.
Right. What were they, 6 outs away?
Yeah. I think 4 outs away. The Royals, that rally in game, what was that, game 4? Most of that damage came with 2 outs for the Royals.
Right, exactly. So they came so close to the ALCS, and then you can dream on what could happen there. And then you just look at the system and how stocked it was this year, and how, these are not just good guys in the minor leagues. We're talking about like Tyler White, who put up really, really good numbers at AAA this year, and you have to dream about what he could potentially be. Mark Appel didn't necessarily have the year everybody was expecting him to have, but he's still such a good prospect, has such good stuff that, it's just another guy through the system. And then with the draft they had, writing this piece, it was one of those things where you just have so much to draw on. And I was lucky to talk to Jeff Lunau and Alan Rowan in the player development department for the Astros. So if you get a chance, read their comments on that, because they had a bunch to say on it too. They were very proud of their season.
I had a conversation with Craig Goldstein from Baseball Prospectus about this the other day. The Astros, we were talking about Jacob Nottingham, and it was kind of almost along the lines exactly what you said, Sam. The Astros have so much talent, it's almost like they forget how talented they are, because they trade away guys who are like middle of the organization prospects in terms of rankings, and all of a sudden those guys are top prospects in other systems. Somebody like Brett Phillips. Brett Phillips is a good prospect, a very good prospect, but he's back end of the top 10, upper half of the middle 10 in top 30 prospect rankings. All of a sudden he goes over to the Brewers. He's their number 2 prospect. Jacob Nottingham's the same sort of way. Not a top level prospect in the Astro system, a very good prospect, but moves over to another organization, top level guy in that system. That's how good this system is top to bottom for Houston.
Yeah, and the thing with Nottingham and Mengden in that Scott Kazmir trade, when the Astros traded those 2 guys, they had almost built up their profiles so well that they could be traded for a major leaguer. I mean, coming in Nottingham, the reason why the fans voted him the breakout prospect of the year was he hadn't really hit before. He hadn't hit higher than 247 at a pair of rookie level stops. So this is a guy who the Astros, they had the trust in him, and they tried him out this year at Quad Cities, and then bumped him up to Lancaster, and helped him build his stock so much that he was being traded for a major leaguer. And like you mentioned with Phillips, Domingo Santana, a guy who hadn't yet put it together in the majors, it strikes out a lot there, but was still a valuable piece of that Fresno team. Was just another very small piece of star-studded Astros system. So even though they made two fairly big trades, you look at the system now, it doesn't even look like it made a dent.
It's pretty amazing. And the way that team was just vilified and mocked forever by old school baseball people. This will never work. This rebuild is a joke. The Astros owe their fans an apology, blah, blah, blah. Look who's laughing now. Because the Houston Astros, not only do they have one of the most successful systems in minor league baseball, but they also made the postseason far ahead of schedule at the major league level, and that team is only going to get better. One of the teams that really hopes that they are going to be able to follow a road similar to that is the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers have had a few down seasons, and the talent level in their minor league system hasn't been what it once was, but the Brewers executed a couple of late season deals and really built themselves up, and we saw not only that influx of talent into their system, but also the continued development of a very, very elite prospect now in Orlando Arcia, who is a guy who really came out of the scene in 2015, a member of the Biloxi Shuckers, now is a top 100 prospect in Major League Baseball. He was a little bit under the radar coming into this year. Not only that, but the Brewers got another cool honor, and that Biloxi was named the best game of the season with their walk-off victory in their home opener in Biloxi, which came in June. Brighter days for Brewers fans ahead too, Sam.
Yeah, I got to write up the Arcia piece too, and that was a lot of fun to write. Just again, you have so much going for him. The guy won a Rawlings Gold Glove for the minor leagues at shortstop, which, as we know, is a very strong defensive position. If guys are very athletic, have a lot of good range, they have to have a good arm. They typically get put at shortstop, and Rawlings found that, he was the best, or in their eyes, whoever puts those lists together, was the best shortstop in the minor leagues, which is very high praise. But his bat, took a jump this year. He had a 307, 347, 453, slash line, had some struggles in the middle of the year because what happened was he spent last winter, in the Venezuelan league back home, was playing with his brother Oswaldo, who's in the Twin system. And, he really held his own there. He was playing as a 20-year-old. I included in my story, his manager now at Biloxi, faced him, in the round robin tournament, and he went up against Freddie Garcia, laced a 3-run double, and Carlos Subero, who I know you talked to for the game story, joked that that's when he got fired from the Venezuelan league, because Orlando Arcia was the guy who did it. So this is a guy who really took a jump. He was going up against advanced competition, from the Venezuelan league, coming into Double-A, playing most of the year as a 20-year-old. Saw his homers jump from 4 last year in the FSL to 8 this year. Hit 37 doubles. So showed plenty of pop to go with that really, really strong defensive work. I think I was saying before, he had some struggles in the middle of the year because a lot of guys came up to him, saw he was, a 6-foot scrawny shortstop, young guy. We're just going to pump fastballs by him. Once they realized they couldn't do that anymore, he's a little bit of a free swinger. So if he's going to sit dead red on the fastball, he can hit it. Once they realized that, they were trying to throw him some more breaking stuff around June, July, and that's when he started to go through a funk. But everybody I talked to said he made the necessary adjustments, and that's where everybody really was impressed with him. His ability to, make those adjustments against the breaking stuff and still crack 300 at the end of the year with some nice pop. So he's now MLB.com's number 12 prospect. I think he started the year at number 88. Really made a jump in terms of evaluation, and everybody says he has a little bit of that swagger to him too, that he just exudes being a major leaguer. I know when his brother Oswaldo saw him apparently in the playoffs for the Southern League, he went up to the hitting coach for the Biloxi Shuckers and said, "Wow, he's a major leaguer now." And everybody's like, "Yeah, but don't tell him. We don't need him getting any more cocky." So hopefully we haven't done that with giving him the breakout prospect of the year, but his story is definitely a fun one. And, given the shortstop renaissance kind of going on in the majors right now with Correa and Lindor and Corey Seager, Arcia kind of maybe slightly second tier there, but he's certainly going to be part of that group going forward. At least everybody in the Brewers system hopes so.
Biloxi is a really, that team obviously had the strangest 2015. Started the year with 54 games on the road, was able to open up their ballpark in June, but the ballpark wasn't fully finished in June, so they were still kind of, playing at home, but not playing at a finished off ballpark, the final product of what it will be. But that team, despite 54 games straight on the road to open the season, they won their first half division title, make it into the playoffs. A very, very loyal and really excited fan base gets behind them as they make a run to the Southern League Championship Series. And I got to write the Game of the Year story, which was their walk-off victory in the home opener, which came June 6th at MGM Park. And the cool thing about it was just hearing the way that the members of that team describe that fan base, because it obviously was a very exciting start to the season, but it was a very exhausting start to the season as well for that team. They played well, but you're on the road for 2 straight months. That's going to take a toll no matter what. But to be able to get home and find out that not only were they getting home to one of the coolest ballparks in the country, but you're getting home to a city that has a fan base that has really, really followed you. That was one I talked with Chris Harris, the radio voice of the Shuckers, because I wanted to get his perspective as not just a member of the team that had to be on that road trip, but also a member of the front office that had to be on that road trip. It's really unique for a guy in his position. He's players, not to take anything away from what they do, but the routine of going to the ballpark on the road is really the same. If you're a front office member, he's handling travel arrangements. He's writing game notes. He's putting together the media guide. He's working the social media accounts. He's doing all that stuff. And, oh, by the way, he's going to the ballpark and calling games, so he's there every night for that as well. So his take was a really unique and interesting one. And he said when they got home, the Shuckers figured out, man, this town has been following this team the entire season. They got back. It's a sellout crowd, obviously, on opening night. There was a parade pregame where they had kids with signs that had players' names on it and stuff. Just stuff that doesn't really happen in the minor leagues that much. And that was really cool to hear the way that Biloxi embraced that team. So the Shuckers get home. They give up an early lead. Mobile takes the lead. Biloxi comes back, ties that game. Game gets sent into extra innings. Mobile takes the lead again in the top half of the 14th, and then Biloxi comes back to walk it off. And it just seemed like it had played itself perfectly. Carlos Ribeiro, who you mentioned there, Sam, the manager of that Biloxi team, told me he'd been in player development for 17 years, and that's a moment that's unlike basically anything he had ever seen before. And his thought was, they take the lead in the top of the 14th, but his initial thought was, man, this would be a perfect script if we were able to walk it off. That's his quote. So that entire team, that kind of shows you the way they had played in the first half. Was it wasn't, oh man, I can't believe we're going to open this ballpark after this road trip and all of a sudden we're going to, drop our first one here. It was, no, we're going to walk this thing off in 14 innings. And just really, really cool to see the way that team was embraced by their fan base. And Carlos said he thinks a lot of it has to do with the fact that, Katrina went through there 10 years ago and devastated Biloxi as it did so much of that region. And now they get to take ownership in that team. They've got this ballpark. They've got something that they can rally around as a community. And that was really, really cool to hear.
Yeah, you had a neat quote from Chris Harrison there about how about 6,000 people were there for the game, and 5,700 of them stayed until the 14th inning because they had waited so long to have a team. Now that they were there, they weren't going to leave.
Right, exactly. What was another 5 innings? They didn't care.
Yeah, so that those little details is what I kind of took away from this, is just, how much that team did mean to that area. And I know from my own conversations with Carlos Ribeiro, they were saying how much, they took it as a challenge, that road trip. And, you could either use it as an excuse or an opportunity. They used it as an opportunity to play really well, and then this game was kind of their reward for all of that. So
I had the mic turned off just now, but I just want you to know that I almost got killed by another foul ball.
Oh.
Very disappointed to have had the mic turned off.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
We got the
LJ Mazzilli, by the way.
Yeah. LJ Mazzilli. So there's another name we're throwing on the podcast.
But yeah, really cool. It was a crazy season, but like Chris Harris said, he kind of looks at it as 2015 is the soft opening for Biloxi, 2016 is the grand opening. And even though, as he and I think everybody else on that team would attest, you don't want to go through that again, at least you'll have those stories to tell for the rest of your life. You got to see Orlando Arcia in his breakout year. You got to be a part of that road trip. You got to be a part of a team winning a division title and making it to the championship series. Really, really cool story there for Biloxi. And I think it's a testament to, kind of the way that a minor league franchise can invigorate a town like that, because Biloxi was coming from a situation in Huntsville where ballpark situation was difficult. The fan support hadn't been there over the last few years, so they really find themselves in a very, very good spot now. And congratulations to them. Congratulations to Orlando Arcia, because just a really cool 2015 for them. And as we segue into our third and final strike of 3 strikes, the Arizona Fall League is upon us and is about midway through already, which is insane. Fall Stars game coming up on Saturday. Already been some pretty interesting storylines to come out of the AFL this year, but the Fall Stars rosters were announced this week, and that game will take place Saturday at Salt River Fields at Talking Stick. It'll be televised on MLB Network. Sam, what were some of the guys who stood out to you on the Fall Stars rosters, and who are some of the people that you're looking forward to seeing this Saturday?
Yeah, so the way this kind of works for anybody who hasn't heard of the Fall Stars game before, it's kind of almost like a mixture of an all-star game and the futures game. The futures game is where they just throw lots of top prospect talent together, regardless of kind of how the season they're having. This is a little bit of that. I mean, there's certain guys, Austin Meadows with the Pirates, who's not having necessarily a great AFL year or season so far, but it certainly has that prospect cachet you want to see him on the stage. Kind of keep that in mind. I know a lot of people, when we tweeted out the rosters, were like, "Where is this guy? He's third in slugging or whatever." And it's a mixture of both prospects and guys who are doing really well. So it's a reward for a bunch of different things. But that kind of said, I'm excited to see Gary Sanchez in a game like this. I know he's doing really well in the AFL. Had a really strong ending to his season in the Yankee system. Scranton Wilkes-Barre got call up to the Yankees, got that literally just a taste, like 2 morsels of a couple games, but has been performing very, very well so far in the AFL, is leading in home runs, so I'll be interested to see what happens when he goes against really the top arms from the East Division. That West Division roster, I think, is particularly kind of stacked because they have a lot of Astros guys on there, A.J. Reed, J.D. Davis, Derek Fisher, and like I said, Gary Sanchez is also on that team. Reese McGuire is the other catcher, friend of the podcast. And they, you just look down the list. They have my favorite pitcher in this game, which is Alex Reyes of St. Louis, who we've talked about numerous times. The guy just has gas. And, if in a game like this, they're going to let him dial it up as much as he wants if they do give him the ball. So that'll be exciting. East Division, guy who kind of stands out there is Christian Arroyo. He was the Week 3 AFL Player of the Week. Is showing some surprising pop. I know he's hit 3 homers, I think, in the AFL so far. For a guy who's a shortstop, hadn't played higher than High A San Jose, is really holding his own against the advanced competition there. Dominic Smith is doing very well for the Mets. As we know, had a horrendous first couple of months and then really turned it on towards the end and is bringing that to the AFL, which is exciting. Adam Brett Walker has a chance to just put on a show with his power there. And that also in that outfield could be Clint Frazier and Ramiro Tapia, two guys who I know are top 100 prospects. So both teams have plenty of, prospect talent to get excited about. The good thing is it's on TV, so you can check that out for yourself. But what about for you, Tyler? Just kind of looking over these, what's kind of standing out to you?
I agree. I'm really excited to see Alex Reyes. That arm is just something that you hear about. It's kind of the way you heard about Chris Bryant's bat. It's the way that people rave about Alex Reyes' arm. And again, the AFL is cool, and the Fall Stars game is extra cool because guys get to work in such short bursts that for somebody like Alex Reyes who can touch triple digits late into starts, if he's only going 1 or 2 innings in an All-Star game, that's a moment to be very electric. You see the same sort of thing in the Major League All-Star games from time to time also, but that should be really cool. DJ Peterson is going to be playing in his second straight Fall Stars game, the Mariners' number 3 prospect. I'll be interested to see him. He's had a much more mature approach this season after being in the AFL last year and really struggling. A lot better results out of him this year. Jurickson Profar is going to be a member of the West Division's roster, which will be cool. I mean, we've seen obviously what injuries have done to him over the last couple of seasons, but still unbelievably talented. And not only that, he's still only 22 years old. That's a crazy thing about Profar. AJ Reed, who we noted as our Offensive Player of the Year, and it just absolutely destroyed baseballs all season long. That's on the west side. On the east side, I obviously am partial to Raimel Tapia. We have glowed about my love for him many times on this podcast, but I really like Sean Manaea. I've gotten a chance to talk to Sean a few times. I talked to him yesterday a little bit in Peoria, and just a guy who really seems like he has a very good head on his shoulders as a prospect traded in his first year. I mean, a first-round pick and a guy who all of a sudden you're in a different organization, the Oakland Athletics, they're handling you a little bit differently than what the Kansas City Royals were, but he is very at home with where he is. He's working on a slider right now, trying to do some different stuff with that pitch and teach it to himself and learn and take his knocks here in the AFL, but he's a member of that roster. I'll be interested to see how he looks in a situation like an All-Star Showcase. And Renato Nunez is another guy who I've really, really liked watching over the few times I've gotten to see him, both in spring training earlier this year and here in the AFL somewhat. So there are a lot of talented names on these rosters, and really excited to see that showcase because it is a very unique All-Star event in the AFL. And one of the other notes that we came across in the Arizona Fall League, not something that either of us was aware of until yesterday when I was taking in a game in Peoria and texted you and said, pitch counts for 20 seconds in minor leagues this year across AA and AAA, right? And you said, yeah, what's up? 15 seconds here in the AFL now. New rule for 2015.
Yeah, that just seems – we were talking about this before, but that just seems almost cutting it too close. You were at the game yesterday, so you can talk more to it, but 20 seconds is like, okay, if you haven't thrown the ball yet, please throw the ball. This is taking too long. 15, I know it's only a difference of 5 seconds, but you might be getting to the point where a guy is legitimately rushing a throw, and when guys are pushing it, just to beat a clock, that could be when injuries happen and that kind of thing. So I know a lot of people were balking at 20 seconds, saying that that's too quick. We showed that wasn't necessarily the case this year. You talk to anybody, that's more than enough time. 15 is cutting it close. But that's, the AFL is experiment land. So that's where they try these. And, maybe they'll decide next year, 20 seconds is fine. After trying it at 15. But what did it look like when you were watching it yesterday?
It definitely, from the few AA and AAA games I got to catch this year, whether it was on, a lot of them on MILB TV, but whether it was in person, at the AAA level or elsewhere, 20 seconds certainly seemed like it was more than enough. It was very rare that you saw somebody get down toward 5 seconds or fewer to throw a pitch. Now, in the AFL, it seems like they've kind of lopped off that lag time, and now it certainly is something that you notice. I haven't seen any pitchers seem hurried, let's say. It doesn't feel like guys are worried about 15 seconds, but you do watch, and the pitch clock will turn on here momentarily. It's out in center field here at Sloan Park, and it is a noticeable thing. Brady Dragmeyer right now from the Toronto Blue Jays is on the hill for the Salt River Raptors. He has to start coming set before that 15-second pitch clock runs out, and he just did with 3 seconds left on it. So you certainly notice it more. That's 8 seconds on a 20-second pitch clock. So you certainly notice it a lot more with the 15-second clock. I don't think it's really caused many issues, but it has a little bit more of a tightened up feel than the 20 seconds that we operated with throughout the AFL last year and in AA and AAA this year.
Yeah, so we'll have to ask around just kind of going forward as we're doing these notebooks and stuff, and we'll talk more about it on the podcast when we get kind of more info on it, but see how guys are reacting. Like we said, this wasn't a big announcement or anything, so this wasn't – last year MLB really got out in front of it and said, listen, this is what we're doing, get excited for quicker games, and now they're kind of tweaking it like this and just chopping little bits off. So we'll have to keep an eye on it.
One of the interesting things too, I was talking with Dan Atchison, who's one of the media relations guys down here in Arizona, and he said it's really not on pitchers. When you really think about it, it's really more on catchers because they control the flow of the game. You can call for time, you can ask for a new ball, you can go out for a meeting at the mound, whatever it is, and you've got to get the signals in. You've got to get signs sent into a pitcher in order to give them the time to come set and be ready ahead of the time that pitch clock is going to count down and run out eventually. So that's who it's almost on more than than it is on pitchers. But it'll certainly, I'm going to start talking to guys around here over the next few days just about how it's felt to them, and if it has been a noticeable difference. I know early on, the first few games this year, there was a game, I think on back-to-back days, in which a game started with an automatic called strike because a hitter was not ready, stepping out of the box between pitches, all that kind of stuff. So it's an adjustment period. As you said, Sam, this is the time to try it. I mean, this is the experimentation league where things like this get figured out. If this is too little a time, if it's too much time, as maybe was the case last year with 20 seconds, whatever it is. So just kind of an interesting little note to the 2015 Arizona Fall League. Speaking of that league, one of the future stars and almost, you could say in his case, past stars who already ascended to the big leagues in his short professional career, Dylan Bundy is now down in the Arizona Fall League, taking part in this league. Baltimore Orioles #2 prospect, sort of ravaged by injuries over the last few seasons. Tommy John surgery in 2013, the year after he had made the big leagues. Some shoulder issues this year, but feeling good, feeling healthy. 7 pitches in his 2015 AFL debut a few days ago here in Arizona. And we'll get a chance to catch up with Dylan Bundy and how he's feeling about the end of 2015 right now. Sitting outside the San Diego Padres clubhouse in Peoria, Arizona Fall League action, and Baltimore Orioles #2 prospect Dylan Bundy sits to my left. Dylan, welcome back to the game, man. How did it feel yesterday?
No, it felt good. Anytime you can throw 7 pitches and get 3 outs, it's a plus. And obviously a successful inning, and no pain, so that's a plus.
So let's kind of go through, what it's been like for you the last couple of seasons. Obviously, 4th overall pick in 2011, made the big leagues in 2012. 2013 Tommy John surgery, something a lot of guys go through. It doesn't make it any easier or any more fun. And then this past season, some shoulder inflammation. But yesterday, you're back on the mound. You're in competitive games. You're going against really tough lineups. I mean, going in the AFL is, like throwing against an all-star team, and 7 pitches to get it done. Just to be able to finish out 2015 feeling good and being on a mound, what does that do for you mentally and confidence-wise?
Oh, man, it's a big confidence booster going into the offseason and knowing that I'm healthy. So once I leave the Fall League, November 20th, and go home and I'm healthy, it's a huge confidence booster for the next season and, heading into spring training.
When you have an inning like yesterday, is it almost a bit of a disappointment? I mean, you were so good. You only got 7 pitches, didn't go out for the second inning. Is it kind of a tease to only go out there and be out there for, 2 minutes or however long it took you to be out there?
Yeah, everybody's been saying that. It's kind of like you wanted to stay out there longer, but then again, I got 3 outs and 7 pitches. I'll take it. But, yeah, I did. I actually wanted to throw all my pitches, and I only got to throw fastball sliders. So, there's always next time. I'm not going to complain about throwing 7 pitches. So it was fun, and I enjoyed it.
It's probably the only time in your life that somebody will look at a 7-pitch inning and go, man, that's got to be tough, right?
Right, exactly.
Dylan, when you look back at this season, I mean, obviously, the way you climbed to the big league so quickly, not a lot of guys do that, especially coming out so young and all that. And then the last few years have got to have been frustrating, just from, the fact that you got to sit around more than you're used to, obviously. But are there positives that you can take away from the fact that, now you kind of know what it feels like to be in those circumstances? When you get healthy, do you feel like, the mental reps that you have from sitting around watching guys or being able to learn things off of a mound, all that kind of stuff, are you able to look at what that'll bring to you now that you feel healthy, now that you feel like, you can go back out there and be the guy you want to be?
Exactly. Even though I've been hurt the last, seems like 3 years consecutively and pitching here and there a little bit, but even though I'm in the training room a lot, doing my rehab stuff, I'm still able to go out and watch games and even on TV and watch the Orioles and keep up with how they're doing and still learn things, even though I'm not actually on the field throwing. So, and still get better. I improve my hip flexibility. The Orioles wanted me to do that. So, even though my arm was hurt, I was still able to get better in certain areas.
How much does that stuff help, too? Because so much of this is interconnected. I mean, the way that guys study pitching mechanics and stuff now, I mean, you talk about something like hip flexibility, and that, connects to how your back feels after a start, how your shoulder can feel, how all that kind of stuff. What have you learned over the last few years about how to take care of yourself just beyond the arm that is going to benefit you down the road?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to it to be able to feel good every time you go out on the mound. And you can ask every starter in the big leagues, they don't always feel their 100% best when they're on the mound because they have 36 starts a year. So you're not always going to feel your best, but you do everything in your power that try to make you feel better.
when you come into a clubhouse like this and you've got basically an all-star team around you, how cool is that experience? I mean, being able to go in and see other guys who are in big spots in their careers and learn from, not only other pitchers, but other pitching coaches, other guys who maybe you wouldn't have an occasion to learn from in your career, and even talking to other hitters, I assume, about, the way they approach certain things, certain counts, certain at-bats. What does the AFL do for you in terms of just being able to have that education from everybody?
Yeah, I mean, you got guys here from low A, high A, double A, and all the levels in the minor leagues. So, all these guys are probably going to be in the big leagues or get there at one point, and you're sitting next to maybe a Hall of Famer. You don't even know it yet. So it's neat to be able to be on a team that has this much talent and be able to pick the brains of other players and other organizations and find out how they do things. And, I'm like, all right, maybe I might think about doing that, or maybe take something from one guy and maybe help me in my future.
When you have a day like yesterday and you get that under your belt, does it feel like now you're kind of back in a rhythm? I mean, obviously you've only got a few weeks left here, but does it feel like a miniature version of what you were able to experience earlier on this season when you got started in the minors to begin the year, or what you had a few years ago when you're going out every 5 days and it's that same routine? Can you get back into that mentality now that it's only 3-4 weeks left here?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be throwing every 4 or 5 days here. 1-2 innings. I'm not going to throw as a normal starter would 4 or 5 innings because of my injury. But, being able to get in a routine and being able to be on the field every day, it's fun to be able to get back to that. And I got to experience, 2 months of that in Double A. So being here and be able to end the season, healthy and on the field every day with these guys is going to be special.
You mentioned Double A there. You were with Bowie to start the year, and one of the really cool things about that for you is you got to pitch with your brother Bobby, who's been in the organization for a while. And you guys, he was kind of ahead of you when he started his career, and then obviously you caught up and blew by everybody in your first season. But to be able to be on the same staff and be in the clubhouse, and you were saying a minute ago before we got started, one of the things you thought would have been really cool is if you could have gone deep into a start, you were on an innings limit, but get out there and have your brother close it out. What was it like being able to be around him on a regular basis and do that professionally, what you guys did growing up?
Yeah, it was fun. We're brothers, and of course we argue and bicker back and forth, but and we've had our days, being on the bus and on the field and the locker room every day together. We butt heads a little bit just because we're brothers, and we showed it quite a bit in Bowie. But we actually got into the same game this year in Bowie. I threw, I think, 3 or 4 innings, and he came in and threw 2, I think. So that was pretty cool, him being able to come in right after me.
How cool is that for your family, too? To be able to watch you guys do this at the Double A level. One of the most competitive leagues in the minor leagues, and to be able to see Bundy in a box score.
Exactly. And my parents, my first year in pro ball, they came out and they got to see both of us because we're only an hour away from each other. And then this year, my dad was able to come out, and we were on the same team. So it was definitely pretty special, and easier on him to be able to come to one place and see us.
A couple more for you, Dylan. I'll get you out of here. Obviously Orioles fans really glommed onto you that first professional year. You make it to the big leagues in that exciting 2012 season for the organization. And for you now, being a few years removed from that and still being so young, what do you feel like, at this point, can you kind of step back and realize that you've still got so much time? I would imagine that it feels like this has been forever since you've been in, when you were on the mound at Oriole Park at Camden Yards and all that kind of stuff. But are you able to still look at that and say, no, I can still contribute to this team for a very long time. I can still be a part of this with this fan base for a very long time. How do you view that now? Still being young and now being, feeling like you're ready to go probably for 2016.
Yeah, exactly. I think every baseball player thinks that they're still young because we're little kids out there playing a game that we've played since we were 4 years old. So I realize I'm 22, even though it doesn't feel like it because the last 4 years has been hectic. But I'm like I said, I'm still young, and I still got a lot of years that I'm going to be able to play baseball and hopefully help out the Orioles, especially next year. Next year's a big year, and see where it goes from there.
Got a few more weeks here, and then it's into the off season. You get to kind of calm down and let things relax for a little while before 2016. But when you get headed toward February and all that, what's the biggest thing to get out of 2015 on a good note? Make sure you feel good going into pitchers and catchers reporting.
Yeah, throwing all my pitches, throwing for strikes, good velo on the fastball, and get out of here healthy and head home and have that confidence in the back of my head that, hey, I'm healthy now. I can go into spring training and help contribute and try to make that team.
Only took like 90 seconds yesterday, but Dylan Bundy back on a mound and looking really good. Congratulations on getting back, man, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
got an interesting topic to cover with our pal Benjamin Hill this week on the latest edition of Checking In with Ben, which is an off-season thing now that takes us in a whole lot of different directions than what we did in season, talking promos and all that kind of stuff. We've got a varied, wide range of topics and a really interesting one this week. First, Ben, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. This is a cool topic that we were kind of talking about off air before we got started, but you've got a story coming up later on this week about an economics professor from Towson University who's written a book on the ways that minor league baseball could be optimized in its affiliation and locations, all that kind of stuff. Tell us about this theory, this idea.
Yeah, well, I'm working on a story about it now. It's a professor by the name of Thomas Rhodes who has written a book called The Call Up to the Majors, a proximity-based approach to the economics of minor league baseball. I actually talked to him way back at the end of June. I met him at a Potomac Nationals game, and he came out to the game to talk to me, and we did the interview, and I've since read the book. But with so much other stuff going on this season, we kind of pushed it back to now, and I'm writing about it now and going to have my interview up with him. By the time this podcast is live, that story should be on the site. So he's an economics professor, and he's just really interested in this idea of how can you optimize minor league baseball, the economics of it, and the player development side by making sure that the affiliates are as close to each other as possible. And it sounds like a simple concept. Of course, you'd want to be close to your affiliate. It minimizes player development costs, and the fans are more likely to care about what's going on because they're going to be that much closer to the major league team and probably be fans of that team. But as you guys know, and as most minor league baseball fans know, it's real tough to actually make real sense of it because there's so many moving parts in this industry and 160 teams and 160 affiliations and blah blah blah. But it was interesting to talk to this guy, get a sense of a few of the things he proposes, and even just to get the opportunity to think about this and what a challenging industry this is when it comes to having 160 affiliations, player development contracts, most of them up for renewal constantly every 2 to 4 years, and trying to make sense of this world and have it work for everyone involved. It's a massive topic.
Ben, let's just for people who don't really understand, there is, as you noted there, teams have player development contracts with minor league franchises. It's kind of one of the things, if you're outside of minor league baseball, you don't really know how that works. If a team switches affiliations, oftentimes the first question that we get from people is, well, what happens to the players? Do they stay with the minor league team or do they go with the next affiliation? It's kind of confusing if you're outside of it. But so if you're a major league team, you've got 6-7 minor league affiliates, and oftentimes they're far flung across the country. I mean, when you look at certain systems, let's take, for example, one of the really tough ones is the San Francisco Giants because, you're a West Coast team, obviously, and they have teams all over the place. They've got a low A team in the South Atlantic League, the Savannah Sand Gnats in Georgia. Then they've got a high A team in San Jose, California. Then you've got your double A team in Richmond, Virginia, and your triple A team in Fresno, California. So you're ping-ponging back across the country for those guys who are climbing that ladder. It's exhausting for them. It's exhausting, as you noted, for player development guys who have to travel and be a part of that. So what does this suggest? What does this theory suggest for systems like that to, in a lot of areas, you're hamstrung. I mean, there's only low-class A leagues in the Midwest League, the South Atlantic League. They're localized, to the eastern half of the country. Tough for Western teams. Kind of the same way for double-A leagues, which are only in, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, the Southeast, and then in the Eastern League as well. How does it compensate for all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the problem with this, having an ideal proximity for all these affiliations around all of minor league baseball is in this book. Professor Thomas Rhodes, he's an economist, so it's a dry read, but it's interesting if you like the numbers and you like a real heavy, more academic standpoint. And he does what is called a Pareto efficient model. I think that's how you say it, Pareto. And he comes up through a series of steps and a lot of calculations of what the ideal affiliation would be for every level of play for every major league team, all the way down the line. And yes, maybe that would be ideal, but there's so many factors at play. And it's like you just said, especially on the West Coast, it's really difficult to have your affiliates near you because there just aren't that many minor leagues around in which you can do that. If you're on the East Coast, it's easier. The Baltimore Orioles and the Philadelphia Phillies Cleveland Indians are teams that have done that, that clustering and having it around, having pretty much their whole farm system in close proximity, and that's great. Thomas Rhodes in this book tries to make it so there's more possibilities for all of minor league baseball, but you can't really change it up that much. If you're on the West Coast and all parts of the Midwest, Pacific Northwest, you're just not going to have your minor league teams close, and it's just a reality doing business.
So is there any sort of practicality to this book? Is there any way it could possibly be used as a roadmap, or is it just, a nice theory, something somebody wrote in an ivory tower somewhere? Would any major league
those
organization
Towson elites there?
Yeah, Is this going to be practical at all?
Yeah, I asked him that question, and then he acknowledges that it is not solely an academic exercise, but that he's not part of the industry, and that most people working within minor league baseball know these things already. He told me that he wants to create models, and he's creating models. Where you figure out where every team is located, and you solve the problem of who should affiliate with whom to minimize the aggregate distance for all of these teams. And so that could help. But I do think at the end of the day, with the way that everything is spread out, with certain major league teams owning certain other of their affiliates, with the major league teams often wanting to affiliate not just by proximity, but also by the quality of the facilities of their minor league team, there are so many things to figure out. I would recommend reading the story I'm putting together and even reading this book, because it does give you a top-down look at all 160 teams, at all the affiliations. And he does apply an economic perspective, like a true economist perspective, and deals with concepts like shirking and talking about how he likes the tension that exists between major and minor league baseball, and being an economist is all about trying to reconcile tensions. And so there's a lot to dig into, and I think people who love the world of minor league baseball could really just find a million thought exercises within this. He talks about the concept of promotion and relegation as is used in European soccer, and I don't think that could ever apply to the minor leagues, but it kind of opens up a rabbit hole, this whole topic of how teams are affiliated, how long those affiliations last, how far away they are from the affiliates. You could just go on and on down this rabbit hole, and it's the off season, so here we are.
That's one of the best things to do in the off season. It sounds like a really interesting concept, and of course the story will be up on MILB.com this week. And promotion and relegation seems like next thing you know, the Billings Mustangs up in the PCL. It seems like an interesting theory. I like it.
That could be a thought process for a podcast coming up.
I like it. Let's do that.
We could draw up a bracket, do something like that.
Let's incorporate like relegating major league teams too. That sounds like fun.
We do our own thought process.
Ben, some big news in the promo world this week. We tabbed the 2015 Minor League Baseball Promotion of the Year. The Milby Award went to the Staten Island Yankees, who, of course, hosted a Game of Thrones night, unlike any Game of Thrones night that we've seen so far in the minors. You got a chance to talk with Mike Holly from Staten Island about just what all went into that process, and you and I kind of worked in tandem on that story. That was such a cool promotion. I mean, they got George R.R. Martin to show up and did stuff in tandem, not only with him, but with HBO, with Random House Publishing, gave away copies of one of his other books. There was a wolf there from a wolf sanctuary. What was Staten Island's reaction to this? Because it seems like this is really a building block for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this promotion here and there throughout the season, and we've just written this article, and congrats to Staten Island Yankees, 2015 Milby for Promo of the Year. But I do think it means a lot to the Staten Island Yankees specifically, maybe more so than it would mean to your Charleston River Dogs and Brooklyn Cyclones out there, because Staten Island is not a team that's really been too ambitious with the promotions. That, quite honestly, as a New York resident, I've always been kind of surprised and disappointed at how little they do to kind of tap in, at least occasionally, to all of New York City and not just Staten Island. So to have a night like this, to have George R.R. Martin in the ballpark, meant a ton to them. And it's like Michael Holly told me, he said, this core group of front office people, we've been together for a couple of years now, and this is important for us to signal that it can be done well, that we can do something as good as anybody else is doing and to build off of it. It's a big win for us to do something of that scale. This award is motivation. It sets a new bar for us to meet every year. And I think that's what's important. Is this is a team playing in one of the 5 boroughs in New York City, in one of the most exciting, and diverse markets, huge media market. And yes, you're a Class A short season team. You're not going to get attention naturally, but you can find ways to break through the clutter and at least a couple times a year do something really exciting and special that, appeals to people all throughout New York City and gets national attention as well. And I think that's important for any team, but especially a team like Staten Island, which does have so much competition by virtue of being in New York City.
Yeah, so what do you think this means for the future of Staten Island promotions and getting people excited? I mean, it gets a little press here, obviously winning an award, something they can, if this is something that group can take forward and say we can do things well, what does this mean for the future of the Yankees over there?
Well, I just think, it's like I was saying, they just want to keep building on it. And, in talking to Michael Holley, he said that it's a short season, so, just 3 months, but they want to do one Game of Thrones-esque promo a month and, have those, circle those dates on the calendar as soon as the season starts. You have 38 home games in a short season league. You're going to blow out at least 3 of them, go for the sellout, go for the, the New York City media attention, go for the national attention, have the pop culture tie-ins. I've talked to the team off the record. I know they have some ideas that I'd love to see happen, but I don't want to, blow up their spot with that right now. But I'd really hope that this means that Staten Island Yankees are ready to compete on a promotional level the way, the Brooklyn Cyclones have and the way so many other teams have. And quite honestly, the way a team such as they should. They're in New York City. And they really need to start taking advantage of where they are and really, because then even if you're not staging Game of Thrones nights, you've exposed that many more people to your product. And why not? You've got a huge population to draw from to get people these games, and you just need to keep spreading the word. Take the ferry over here. We got the New York City skyline in the background. This is a great place to spend an evening. See future Yankees today in an intimate environment. They got a lot to sell, and I think they're on the right track.
I will say I went to one of their final home games of the year this year, and it is so easy. I mean, as a non-New Yorker, somebody who doesn't live there, I think even people who travel, or people who aren't necessarily from the city or live in the city would think that's a tough thing to do. I'm not going to take the ferry over to Staten Island, catch a baseball game, whatever. It sounds so complicated. It's so easy to get there from Manhattan. It takes, 30 minutes, however long it is when you're on the ferry. You get a great view of the city, take some pictures, and the boat drops you off basically at home plate. They really do have a lot of assets there to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. You get off the ferry and you see signs for trains, buses, and then a baseball. It's really that easy. You just get off the ferry, get into the station, make a right, go out the doors, and then you can see the stadium right there. And but when I talk to people in New York City and they say, "Hey, what do you do?" and I try to explain whatever it is that I do, they hear minor league baseball and they say, "Oh, like the Brooklyn Cyclones." And no one ever says, "Oh, like the Staten Island Yankees."
Huh.
And I feel like the Staten Island Yankees need to get into that conversation in New York City.
And all right, so with that kind of complete, and that's one big part of the off season, and you'll be kind of completing one other big part of the off season here this week with your blog series. I know you wanted to finish it before the World Series. The Royals did not oblige, but what do you have there to finish up on your on the road series?
Well, every week that I'm with you guys, I talk about the latest on-the-road blog post chronicling my ballpark visits. It is November. The season did end almost 2 months ago. But by the end of the day tomorrow, which at this point will be today, the day the podcast comes out, or whatever. This week, all my on-the-road content will be done. Ben's Biz blog, 35 stadiums visited, over 100 blog posts, dozens and dozens of MILB.com articles. I'm finally putting a bow on that, and then my off season will begin. So check it out, Ben's Biz blog. I'm writing about the Portland Sea Dogs right now. That's where my season ended, and there's so much stuff to dig through and enjoy if you're a minor league baseball fan, or at least I'd like to think there is. Please tell me my efforts have not been in vain.
It is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. You can follow Ben on Twitter. He is at bensbiz. And, of course, story coming up later on this week about the optimization of minor league affiliations and some good theories, some good concepts in there, and obviously some stuff that would take a lot of work if it was going to work, but really cool stuff, as always, from our good pal Benjamin Hill. And, Ben, you're going to take some time off soon. Enjoy it.
I will. Thank you.
We are in the top of the ninth inning here in Mesa, Arizona, as the Salt River Raptors carry an 8-5 lead over the Mesa Solar Sox. Thanks for joining us here on the 32nd edition of the Minor League Podcast as I, give very thinly veiled play-by-play as to what is going on in this game. Like that's been the focus of the episode for some reason. I'm just giving you a score update. But we are set to wrap this one up. Big thanks to Dylan Bundy. Big thanks to Benjamin Hill. You can follow Ben on Twitter again, of course, at Ben's Biz, and you can check out the blog bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And Sam, Fall Stars game Saturday. We're 3 weeks away from the end of the AFL. This podcast will continually be us talking about the fast movage of time.
Well, I think what we have to do is we have to break out the old VCRs.
I like it.
Actually record this game on videotape.
Okay.
And just play it on that.
Okay.
Constantly over and over.
I'm totally fine with that.
If I remember, December and January and February in the Northeast last year is very cold and sad, and so we're going to need to cling to this as long as we can.
What was that thing? Arctic Blast? Wasn't it an Arctic Blast?
There was
we heard all about last year.
There was the Nemo thing. There was the megastorm that came off everywhere. Like I have family, in Massachusetts and Boston, and it took until I think June until the snow was officially all melted and all that stuff.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's nice now in New York, although it's dark early, which I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
But we'll cling to this as long as we can.
I was also hoping to get down to Arizona and it would be like 90 degrees, and it is not. It's like 60s and rain, and come on, Arizona. What's the deal with that? I have a very random week coming up. We're going to be doing ever since we started doing the podcast with Tyler and Sam, I've just gotten to be like a traveling fool, which has been cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you're like running away from me or you come here enough, which is fine. Like I'm very happy whenever you're. So I'll take that. But then all of a sudden, like
I'm just getting increasingly far away. First it was like Grand Junction, now it's Arizona. Our next edition of the podcast is going to be from Taiwan. Taipei, Taiwan, which I'm going to try to explain this, I guess, as quickly and seamlessly as possible. There is a pretty large international tournament going on starting next week, 4 days away from first pitch, actually, for the Premier 12, which is a tournament that the World Baseball Softball Confederation kind of came up with to showcase baseball as a viable option for a return to the Olympic Games in 2020. So this tournament dreamed up with the backing of Nippon Professional Baseball, which is the Japanese major league, and it'll be taking place in Taiwan and in Japan from 4 days from now, November 8th to the 21st, and it'll encapsulate the highest rankings and the highest purses for international baseball this year. And with that, the highest amount of points, which can be distributed in the world rankings through the World Baseball Softball Confederation. But the Premier 12 will be the top 12 ranked teams in the world. Japan is number 1 in those rankings. United States is number 2. You can find out more information at wbsc.org. A lot of stuff there on the Premier 12, but I'm going to be heading over to Taipei this weekend. I'll be calling 4 games next week, all of which will be on the WBSC's YouTube channel. I'll have a pair of Team USA games while I'm over there. Really, really good prospects on that team. Brett Phillips is on that team. Gavin Caccini is on that team. There's a lot of really good talent over there. The Japanese teams and the Korean teams are basically all-star teams that they've comprised from their highest major league rosters. So this is going to be a whole lot of fun. It's an opportunity that came about very randomly and on super short notice for me, but I'm pretty pumped for it.
Yeah, and first off, as first things first, congratulations.
Thanks, pal.
I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
That's an incredible opportunity, and one I'm very jealous that you're getting just for the baseball and for the travel. But I'll tell everybody else what I told you is that I want you to document this, not quite like Hunter S. Thompson style, like don't do drugs, kids, don't do drugs, but like just all sorts of like what crazy atmosphere that's going to be like.
Yeah,
and kind of not to steal Ben's thing, but like kind of like a on the road in Taipei for this Premier 12 tournament, which is supposed to be a big deal. Like we're not sending over complete scrubs over there from the United States,
right?
We're sending over some good players, so I'm really going to be interested to see how that tournament comes together and just what the atmosphere is going to be like, because you hear all the stories about Asian baseball and what that experience is like. So I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for the rest of us to hear your stories.
Thanks, man. I am pumped. It should be a lot of fun. Yeah, it'll be cool. I won't have any games that have the Taiwanese team. They compete as Chinese Taipei in international competition, if you've ever wondered the difference between those. If you see a Chinese Taipei team in the Olympics or the WBC or whatever it is, that's Taiwan. They're the number 4 ranked team in the world. I won't have any of their games, but I will have Japan and Korea, who obviously will have pretty big contingents for their fan bases. And it's going to be really cool to see the different levels of talent on these rosters, because from the NPB stars who are going over for the Japanese team, the KBO stars who are going over for the Korean team, and a lot of top prospects coming out on the American team, the Canadian team. I know Tyler O'Neill, for example, from the Seattle Mariners is on Team Canada. There's a lot of really, really good baseball talent going over there for this tournament, so it should be a ton of fun. And I'll get over there. My first broadcast is Wednesday night, local time in Taipei. That is Wednesday morning Eastern time. I believe that'll be a 6 a.m. first pitch your time, Sam, so I will count on you being awake and watching.
Yeah, well, it'll be on in my room, whether I'm awake, but you'll get my click, if that makes you feel better.
Makes you feel fantastic.
Just yell, like around like the 4th inning, just scream for no reason.
Sam!
Yeah.
Sam! We're recording episode 33 soon. So that will do it for the 32nd episode of the Minor League Baseball podcast. Head on over to iTunes, give us a rating, a review, a subscription. We are rocketing up the baseball charts over there. I was talking with our boss Brendan the other day when I was back in the offices about how much we've been climbing in the baseball charts in the iTunes podcast. So go give us more ratings, more reviews, more subscriptions. That shoots us up to the top of the list, and then you can give us all of your feedback, podcast at milb.com as well. And until next week, when we'll be doing a transoceanic edition of the Minor League Baseball podcast. Enjoy the Fall Stars game on MLB Network, and Sam, I'll talk to you from abroad.
Yeah, I'll be excited for it. Well, hopefully the message will carry.
We'll talk to you guys next week.